Okay, so the fifth sheet is that one that we need to call the SH report. So basically it needs to be an A4 portrait in size, and we need to have the key information we can see is a student name and grade at the top. So what's the year 11 or year 12? And then basically it's selecting a series of graphs to be able to show what's the most relevant part of data from that analysis tables that we did. All it's giving us in terms of what we need to require is effective combination of fonts and colors and conditional formatting. Now, if you have a look back over here, what I've done is been able to, in the analysis, is I've used a little bit of conditional formatting here. So you can see that anything that's less than 0, I've highlighted for this column. So I'll show you how we're able to do that. So if you select the cells that you want to be able to adjust, up in the top, we've got the option of conditional formatting up here. And I'm going to go in and we've got a bunch of options. So for this one here, I did the highlight cells. So I said anything less than, and I put less than 0 through there, and you can then choose what it looks like. So in this case, I said light red with the dark red. So anything that is less than 0 shows up. So with that difference from the average, that's basically saying those two tasks, I was under the average of the class or the course for that one. Okay. Now, for the next sheet, this is going to be our SH reports. Okay, so this one we said it had to be A4 portrait. So if we go up to the page layout section, I can go on there and change the orientation, make sure it's portrait, change the size, so it's A4. And what you should then see is we started to get these dotted lines through to be able to show where each of the pages are. So in terms of what we're checking for is when we are producing our graphs, we need to make sure that they stay within that part. So if we have a look at what we need to include, student name and grade at the top, so I'm just going to literally enter that in. So I'm going to go Mr. Faint, year 11. So that's in, I've got that. I could change the format of that as I want, but then I need to basically make a decision on what I think is relevant or useful to be able to include as graphs. So I've got a few that I've sort of played with, and I'm going to show you how I got those through. But if we look at that first data, be able to show each subject and what the averages were. So the way I selected that one is if you have a look, I'm going to select the cells that I want to be able to include in the graph. So in this case, I want all of those. If I go to insert at the top, I can then go to my recommended charts is the nicest way to do that. So then it will use, basically review what data you've selected and give you a few options of what we want to compile. So I like the look of that first one. It gives each of those averages separately. Having a stacked graph in this point isn't going to be helpful. So I'm going to select that one. So it'll automatically give me the basic part of this here. If I need to move that over to my other one, I can go Control C on that one and paste it over onto here. And I've got my graph ready to go. I can resize and adjust, but at the moment, that isn't complete yet. So we don't have a relevant chart title. So it would be super easy to be able to double click on that, rename that. So that is the averages for each subject broken down by type. So giving it a meaningful name is really important. And you can see we've got what each of the colors means underneath. If you wanted to, you could go in and actually change the colors of each of those. So I could go in and actually go, right, well, I want that to be a green instead of that. So you can go through and customize it a little bit if you want to. Same deal with the font. If I wanted to go in and change the font, I could change that from Calibri and go, all right, well, I want to be able to use Abadi instead. So you can go through and change the fonts nice and easily. The same deal with some of the options. You can see I've got the options that I can go through and tweak a little bit. You shouldn't have to do much. key thing for your graph is making sure you've got a title, clear information about what each of the rows are and what the colors actually signify. So that would be the first one I'd include. You can sort of tweak the size of that nice and easily to be able to adjust the size to fit where you want it to be if it wants to play for me. It doesn't want it at the moment. Okay, so that'd be one graph I'd include. Next one I'd have a look at, you get out of the way, is, all right, what do I need to be able to look at for the differences here? So this one here would be quite nice as a scatter plot. So I'm going to select the task just for the English. So I'm going to grab that information there. I might actually grab the title as well. I'm going to go to my insert and then go in and choose recommended charts. It'll give you some options of what you can look at. That doesn't look particularly helpful for what I need, so I'm going to go straight to the scatter plot. So scatter plot basically allows us to be able to show my scores sitting there and the difference from those as well. So whether you go, does that show what I need it to? Or do I need to adjust my data a little bit here? So having a think about what you want to be able to get out of this is really important. This one here is kind of what I used, I think probably a better use of that data to be able to show whether I'm sitting high or low on it. So you can see it's selected just on English. So choose the difference in that. If I then go back to my insert, recommended chart, and it gives me that high and low from that. I could do it this way if I think that's better. I think going side to side is quite nice, which then gives me the option to be able to change the size of it as I go through to be able to tell me what each of my tasks for that subject I've gone above or below the class average. So there's a few different variations of what data you could pull out, so you could do that for each subject. Down here again, you've got some options on how you produce that data. So if I have a look at the one over here, I've used the task, the weighting and the percentage that I got for it. So having a look at what that one shows, as you can see, I've got the percentage of how much I've gone through. So I'm sitting on about 35 out of the potential 60% for each of those tasks. If I look at this one, this is almost then breaking down, having a look. So if I choose that one, I can see I've gone and I've added this loss percentage, basically the difference between the total weighting and what I got, to be able to show how much I was above or below from what I could get for each of those tasks. Okay, then the last one that's probably the useful is where you're currently sitting for your percentage. So you can see this one here uses the current percentage and the subject. So again, if I wanted to, I could go through and select a particular one, change the font so each of those is a different color to make it a little bit clearer to see what each of those are. Okay, so that then gives me, as long as I've got a relevant name, each of the headings. So for this one, I probably don't need to include my little legend down the bottom. So I can uncheck that one. So then it gives me a nice clean overall grade of where I'm sitting with each of those percentages. You might include just a table with each of the current percentages underneath that as well. So I'm able to grab each of those and reorganize those so that they fit onto my A4 page. So think about the size that you want it to be and sort of work that through so that you can fit everything that you require on that page. So that is basically the last step of making something relevant and a little bit visually appealing. You might hide the cells behind it. So if we go to view, you can actually hide the cells on this page as well. So you can remove the grid line so it's a little bit cleaner. Same deal, you could choose to remove the background of those in the view of that one. So chart design, you could remove the format, and where is he? Outline, no outline. So then it again could be cleaner depending on the look that you want to go for. So there's a few options that you want to play with. I'm intentionally leaving this a little bit vague because I need you to explore and understand how you put it together.